Today's episode is brought to you by my nutrition company, BSL Nutrition, and this is a shameless plug for our all-in-one training drink called Complete Essentials. Complete Essentials is the only all-in-one exercise drink that's scientifically proven to boost your energy and recovery with no artificial sweeteners, no stimulants, no coloring or fillers, and also tastes great. Make sure you stay tuned after the show where I'll share a nice little discount for all of our listeners on your first purchase of the Complete Essentials. Hey, what's up guys? Welcome to episode number 31 of the Smart Nutrition Made Simple Show. I'm your host, Ben Brown, co-founder and CEO of BSL Nutrition. Today we interview Ali Gilbert. Ali is the founder of her personal online coaching brand, Metabolic Golf. She's a partner at the Greenwich DX Sports Lab and the director of performance at Clay Health Club and Spa in Port Chester, New York. And most recently, Ali was named one of Golf Digest's top 50 golf fitness professionals. Today on the show, Ali and I dissect the importance of testosterone and measuring testosterone levels in men, especially men over 40, but how men even earlier than 40 in their 20s and 30s are suffering from low testosterone, why they're suffering from low testosterone, what the environment has to do with it, what our lifestyle, what our sleep, what our nutrition and training has to do with it, and how to overcome some of those obstacles through nutrition, training, and lifestyle. Ali's a pretty unique gal in that she is focusing on men's health. She's a trainer and nutrition expert, and so I think you guys are going to enjoy this episode. If you do, then the best compliment that we can get is for you to leave us a positive review, subscribe on iTunes, and please, please, please share this with your friends who you think could benefit. With that said, I'll turn it over to the show. I hope you guys enjoy. Ali Gilbert, thank you for coming on the Smart Nutrition Made Simple show. How are you?
Good. Thank you for having me.
So, Ali, you're in Greenwich, Connecticut, and you have a personal training company. Talk to me about kind of what you're doing on a daily basis.
So, I train mainly golfers, mainly men. 40 and over is kind of my demographic. And I work out of a health club called Clay Health Club and Spa in Port Chester, where I am the director of performance is my title. And I train, the guys here, and I also am a partner in a business that does blood work. We sell blood work. One of my partners is a doctor, and we have another partner who's our managing partner. And basically, I have access to labs every single week that I'm able to read and kind of understand the biochemistry aspect of training and the impact that it has on people's health, specifically men's health, which is my niche, so to speak.
Okay, cool. So are most of your clients kind of just recreational golfers?
Yes. Couple club professionals, but mostly very high-powered CEOs, stressed out guys who pretend they're on the PGA Tour.
Totally. I have plenty of experience training golfers over my time, and it's actually a great demographic to have because they certainly have the money to train consistently, but also they'll do virtually anything to get better at the game. And so it's always fun because you can be like, let's strength train, let's hit it hard. And as long as they understand, like, this is something that's going to contribute towards improving their driving distance or stability or, ability to stand over a putt, and then they're down. So
yeah, big time. We have 9 country clubs alone in Greenwich. So, and that's, excluding the various clubs in Westchester County, New York, which is right next door. So a lot of my guys belong to multiple clubs. So it is a very lucrative area to be in, and they do take it very seriously. So that was kind of, you and I are very similar strength and conditioning backgrounds where everybody wants to work with athletes, but it's kind of hard to niche yourself with that. And this is a way to work with athletes who can afford to train.
I love it.
Mentioned. Yeah. So it's a fun group. And I do, a lot of them are actually very challenging and difficult to work with because they're used to getting certain things a certain way and being the one to call the shots in their career. And this is something they do not know. So I like that challenge. I like the difficult ones. So
yeah, that's great. So how did you fall into the niche of not only working with golfers, but working with kind of exclusively males?
It just naturally happened with working with the golf niche because men typically seek out golf fitness. Women, not so much, even though there is the aesthetic and fat loss aspect of it. But that whole training for golf is something that interests guys more so than women around here. And training more and more men, naturally, I was into nutrition and understanding how that affected them. And so we have training, we have nutrition. And then there's this whole other area that kind of never got enough attention in men's health, which is testosterone levels and understanding the truth behind that. And it's never been such an issue as it is now. So 20 to 30 years ago, our grandfathers didn't have low testosterone levels as often as men do right now. And I think it's over the past few decades, 20 years, it's declined 17%, which is a lot. And even LabCorp and I believe Quest actually lowered their range from low end to high end because of the trend of men having such lower levels lately. So undertaking that, I was like, you know what, I'm going to be an advocate for men's health and basically learn as much as I can. So, I figured it's a cool workaround being a female specializing in men's health. Also it gives the guys some sort of comfort in the sense that, okay, a female is talking about, maybe having erectile dysfunction is normal among some people these days. Feeling a certain way is normal, so if a girl doesn't think it's, a weakness, then maybe it's accepted a little more. And I understand a lot of guys would rather talk to a man about it, but a lot of my guys have been very open and grateful for being able to talk about that.
Yeah, well, I would think that, especially being a 40 plus population, a guy that's pretty comfortable financially, pretty, comfortable with who they are at that point in their life, then it's kind of a situation where it's like, you know what, I mean, I'm here to get better. And I'm obviously working with someone that knows what they're talking about. And that's part of the reason I wanted to have you on the show, because you do specialize not only in nutrition and functional diagnostic nutrition, but the whole, testosterone area as well. And so that's what I want to dive into. Now, why is it something has become such an epidemic, and what are the symptoms that people should be, that men should be looking for, and when should we be concerned?
So a lot of it has to do with our environment. Maybe 10 years ago when everyone started using started using glass to carry food and water in, it was like earthy, crunchy, like, oh, they're kind of a weirdo. Totally. But now it's actually like, this is reality where the plastics are really not good for us because of the xenoestrogens and things that basically melt into food when you heat stuff up, as well as, makeup products, women using birth control. They use birth control and they use the bathroom, and that gets excreted in the urine, the estrogens, and it's in the water system.
Yeah.
Pesticides, like all that stuff is actually, okay, yeah, that is having, a big impact on us. And the obesity epidemic, the more body fat that somebody has, the lower their testosterone is likely to be, because in body fat lives an enzyme called aromatase. And aromatase takes the testosterone and says, I'm going to turn you into estrogen. And I'm going to have a lot of activity because I'm hanging around in your stomach and the body fat, where men tend to deposit it. And, if you look at places, I always say Disney World and Walmart are great examples, because you start to see more of a female fat storage pattern in men, where it's around the hips and the thighs, and it's kind of a very estrogenic body, the man boobs and stuff like that. So that, is part of the obesity epidemic, because now that increases the national BMI, even though we kind of know that's a BS number, because you and I are probably obese, but
right.
40% of Americans are obese. I mean, that says something.
So there's a lot of things that you just touched on that are really relevant. And the first being that what you're saying is, our environment is strongly contributing to basically through the consumption of xenoestrogens. So we're getting all of these chemicals from our water, from our food, from plastic water bottles, from from our environment. And it's because of those. Now those have the ability to do what to testosterone? They're basically suppressing testosterone levels.
So they're known as endocrine disruptors, and basically they will enter your body and mimic an estrogen or mimic, not really mimic testosterone, but they'll mimic hormones in our body, where our body basically in English gets confused. And then it can start producing more estrogen. And there's different types of estrogen, but some of them are worse than others because they're carcinogenic, and our body will start to produce some of that. And basically it doesn't know how to get rid of it as well. And a lot of that is based on our diet, micronutrients specifically, and how many people get enough vegetables.
Right.
And,
So what do you say to people that, because we classify these as toxins, what do you say to those people that say that the body naturally detoxifies itself and there's, maybe no such thing as toxins, there's no such thing as detoxification?
It's more, yes, naturally, we have our liver for a reason. We sweat for a reason. But a lot of people impair the ability of the liver to detoxify because alcohol and crappy diet. And a lot of people don't work out enough or get enough of a sweat to cause that type of detoxification. That's why infrared saunas are really good. It also helps like the mineral balance in the body. But getting in, it always comes down to getting in good whole foods will help your body naturally get rid of this stuff. And there's a couple supplements that you can take that can help excrete some of the bad estrogens, but it's understanding what exposure you're placing yourself under to what and stuff like that. So to answer your other question regarding what do I tell these guys about, the signs, is a lot of them will present with signs of depression because feeling lethargic, low muscle mass, inability to put on muscle mass, drop body fat, any erectile dysfunction, or just the overall feeling of malaise, that will get confused by a lot of doctors with depression, and they will get scripted an antidepressant. So low testosterone comes with those same symptoms. So
okay, yeah, that's really helpful information. And so the other part is that you had talked about sort of a demasculization, or basically men are becoming more feminized, and that has a lot to do with, or is evidenced by kind of body fat storage patterns. And so what do we start to see? What men start to see that is telling them that we're getting more of the aromatase, testosterone conversion, stuff like that going on in their body?
I would say one of the biggest indicators would be growing man boobs and increased body fat. I mean, those are the most basic. I always, go over morning wood in my talks. I have a slide of a tree holding coffee. It says morning wood. So if you're not experiencing that every morning, or it's not as strong as it used to be, then that could be an indicator as well.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So, and that's a huge first sign that, I can't tell you how many guys I've consulted with over the years that it's not even I didn't even know that I was supposed to have that.
Yeah. Yeah. You'd be surprised.
It is actually shocking. And so to put more relevance to what you're talking about is the number of men that I've worked with that are still in their 20s and have been prescribed testosterone therapy, are on low thyroid medications, all of these signs that testosterone is being depleted and that their body's not producing in optimal amounts. It's pretty darn significant. So in addition to the environmental aspect, and let's assume that that they're not overly, they're not obese, what are some lifestyle factors that are further contributing, if there's anything else, to the suppression of testosterone?
Stress.
Yeah.
That would be probably number one, at least with my demographic, but I think we can safely say it's most people. So it comes down to the Goldilocks rule of you want enough exercise, not too little, not too much, enough food, not too little, not too much. And we're so bombarded now with technology and stimulating things like the blue light and checking email, checking Facebook. I'm guilty of that. Like, right before I go to bed.
Yeah.
If you read something on Facebook, like your friend pisses you off, that's a stressor. So that triggers those stress hormones to elevate. So I forgot where I was going with this, but
just the stress response and how it contributes to low T is something that's pretty significant.
The lifestyle factors. So a lot of, when I have a guy come in for the first time, and, before I screen him, we sit down and talk, and I ask, obviously, all the lifestyle questions. How much sleep are you getting? Are you on any medications? Are you taking any supplements? How many days a week are you working out? What is their output compared to, all right, what are you eating? I have people log food for at least a week. What are they taking in? And I have a lot of guys who they want to do metabolic workouts like every day. They would do it all day, every day, because it makes them feel really good. That's great. But how about, maybe go take a walk is really what they need, or a nap. But that's not sexy, and nobody wants to talk about that. So the biggest lifestyle thing that they can do right away would be go get 10,000 steps in a day and maybe strength train 3 days. So let's cut the volume, increase the amount of vegetables, and walk. And that does wonders. I mean, I've had even some of my online clients where, if they're sleeping 3-4 hours a night, I'm like, dude, you are not going into the gym. You're just going to walk and sleep. And he's like, oh my God. I'm like, I understand you're paying me to tell you to walk and sleep, but that's what you need. And then all of a sudden, boom, they drop some body fat. They feel better. Their libido comes back. So, it's putting on the brakes and understanding that, yes, there is too much of a good thing. So
let's say that I'm a male listening and I have some concerns that I may have low testosterone levels. What's the first step that I should take to identify that?
Get blood work.
And within the blood work, so I go to my doctor and I get blood work, and what are we looking for?
So you want to get kind of an idea of what's going on, because total testosterone levels doesn't really tell the whole story. And it would be great if that was a normal number on the panels that you get when you have a physical, but it's not. We want the testosterone total number. We want the free number, because that's the number that's actually usable. We want estrogen. We want prolactin, progesterone, if it's possible, sex hormone binding globulin, which is a glycoprotein that will snatch testosterone and bind it up. So if that's really high, then you're not going to have as much free testosterone. And then thyroid, because thyroid and testosterone correlate very highly. And when you get the whole picture with that, and then you compare it to lifestyle factors, well, a lot of the production of thyroid hormone occurs in the liver and the gut. So that depends on, all right, is their nutrient intake good? Are they drinking a lot of alcohol? Are they really impairing their liver's ability to actually do its job? And you start being able to connect the dots, because just, if somebody has a lower testosterone, you don't automatically think, okay, well, maybe I need TRT. It's all right, let's address the lifestyle issues first, because maybe this person doesn't need therapy. And sometimes if you dump therapy on top of a crappy lifestyle, they may feel better, but you still have the crappy lifestyle.
Right.
And then going down the road, they're just going to need more testosterone, which isn't the answer. So they really have to fix the underlying lifestyle factors first.
Yeah, for sure. Because I've had multiple people that have started TRT from their medical doctor, and they've just gotten fatter or haven't noticed any change because they haven't changed the underlying lifestyle factors like you talked about. So I'd love to get into kind of what those, what kind of some of the steps that you take, what are the big needle movers for them, but whether, as it relates to nutrition training and lifestyle. And we talked about a couple of those, but going back to getting the blood work, it sounds like that the things that you're looking for, it's beyond just the total and free testosterone. You're obviously looking at some other markers. Now, are those markers that most conventional doctors are looking at?
No. And that's because it either is not covered by insurance, which insurance usually covers a general physical, or B, they don't understand completely how to interpret those numbers. And if they do run those labs, they may treat you like a number and say, well, you're in range, so you're okay. Now, testosterone range is quite large. And I mentioned earlier, LabCorp has lowered theirs on the initial low end and then the high end. So it can range from 250 to 1100, depending on the lab. So if you're a man who's 33 years old and you get your testosterone tested and you're 290, you may get a doctor who says, well, you're in range.
Exactly.
He still feels like shit. So that's a problem. Or you may get a doctor who says, oh my gosh, you're in range, but you're really low. Let's put you on TRT.
Right.
Well, that might not be the answer either.
So just because you're in the normal range, doesn't mean that your testosterone production is actually normal. Inherently, the range in and of itself is an issue because it's so expansive.
And it's also an average of everyone in America, including sick people. So it's not optimal. Normal is not optimal. And my guys, I want them optimal, right? They may not be professional athletes, but you don't need to be a professional athlete to be functioning optimally as a man. And that's something I tell people to ask their doctor when they say, well, I'm scared. What if I ask my doctor to run test levels and he doesn't? And I say, well, then you need a new doctor. But if he asks why you want that, just say, I want to know if I'm functioning optimally as a man. And you'd be surprised. Like some guys have come back and said, well, my doctor says I look like I'm functioning fine. And I'm like, oh my God.
Right.
Like, really? Like you can tell? Oh my gosh, that's a superpower that I need.
Yeah, I'd love to have that gift. I always talk about when I'm talking with clients about our conventional blood work norms is our average norms are that of Homer Simpson. I mean, that's the average American, right?
Oh yeah. Yeah.
And so we really need to start looking for optimal norms. So if for those that are listening and that may think they have normal ranges, where can we go to get a more comprehensive diagnostic look at what's really going on?
So you can start by asking your doctor to run certain labs, and then from there, either he will interpret it properly, or you can find a different professional to interpret it for you. Naturally, I will say, like, you can go to my company's website and we sell these tests online because there's all different types of tests. There's urine tests, there's blood tests. And the urine test that we run is called the Dutch test, and that goes a little bit deeper into the conversion from cholesterol all the way to the metabolites of testosterone and estrogen. So, but that's not always necessary. It's more, all right, do we think there might be some sort of conversion issue? But it is tough to find a doctor who gets it. Yep. I've been lucky that my partner, he's 40, he totally understands it. It's something that you have to be an advocate of your own health. You can't really trust the doctors that are in network, and it's not their fault necessarily because they have to see by law like 30 to 40 people a day. They have to go write the notes on those people and report to the insurance company. So, the last thing they're going to want to do is read all this new PubMed studies that have come out and all the new research. So, I was watching Jay Campbell and Jim Brown last night doing a podcast in one of our Facebook groups. And, they were saying that you can't really depend on a general practitioner to give you the ammo or the results that you want, you have to go to a specialist, because we see specialists for everything else in our life. Why wouldn't we with a doctor? So if you need heart surgery, you're going to go to a cardiac surgeon. You wouldn't go to an orthopedist. So when you need testosterone, you want somebody who specializes in hormone replacement or anti-aging. So anti-aging is usually a term that will lead you down the right path towards somebody who understands what you're looking for. And it doesn't necessarily mean I'm going to an anti-aging clinic, I'm going to get testosterone. It's somebody who understands, do you actually need this? Are there other factors that we need to address before we put you on therapy? Because therapy is great and it works really well for a lot of guys, but there are options. You don't have to go straight to TRT. You can use other things, anti-estrogens and stuff like that, but it's understanding what's appropriate for the person. So
yeah,
the other, the conventional doctors don't have time. They have 15 minutes to, discuss stuff like that with you. So they're going to be looking at the piece of paper like, okay, well, in range for this, normal for this. All right, maybe normal low, I don't know. And usually they have a huge gut anyway, so they're not going to be addressing lifestyle and exercise, because it does require a lot of intake. I mean, someone sitting across from me saying, I want to drop body fat, it's not that simple as saying, all right, let's go work out. It's so much more than it used to be, because we used to be way more active. We used to eat much better food. So it's not like that anymore. So we really have to take in consideration everything that is the person's going through.
Yeah. So. And so what are some of the kind of lifestyle, nutrition, training factors like that you would utilize with the majority of your clientele? I mean, I guess for a first question would be, what percentage of the typical clientele that you see is needing or using testosterone replacement therapy?
The percentage, I think I have 4 guys who are on it. Okay. Keep in mind, my guys are 40 and up. So somebody who's 20, 30 years old, and if they have test levels below 500, then there's something else going on. They would not necessarily be a candidate right away for TRT. So maybe, like 3 or 4 guys, and it's done wonders for them. It's helped their ability to just perform at work, in bed, all that stuff. Because it is the male hormone. It's the winning hormone. It makes you feel like a man. So there's nothing that it should be shameful about being on testosterone replacement. It's just like any other medication. It just gets this demonizing effect from the media. So it literally, like if you're on thyroid replacement, it's the same thing. But no one thinks you're cheating or, it's taboo if you're on thyroid meds. But if you're on testosterone, it's like, oh. So that's a really good point, because it's definitely a stigma attached to testosterone therapy, and I think it's kind of just part of people just not understanding to the degree that I mean, it's like they think you're cheating or something, especially for males, especially for younger males that have some fat loss or physique related goals. Is like you kind of want to do it naturally, but if something's going on in your body to the degree that you're not producing enough of the testosterone, then you need therapeutic doses potentially if you're doing everything else, quote unquote, the right way. And we kind of automatically want to correlate it to like using anabolic steroids or something like that. And people just not really understanding that there's a very significant difference, especially related to how we use it in therapeutic doses. Oh, big time. The difference is massive. And, I say I have like maybe 3 or 4 guys right now who are on it. You would never be able to tell by looking at them. So they don't explode into massive muscle. I mean, I'm sure some people would be glad for that to happen at a therapeutic dose.
Sure.
Yeah. But it just doesn't.
Yeah. And with that said, then you get a whole nother subset of guys that are like, I will do anything I can to put on muscle and get shredded. And they think that's the panacea. That's the answer, is just getting on TRT therapy, and their lifestyle they're not sleeping and they're eating junk and they're overly stressed out and all those types of things. So let's say we, we've run all the blood work and they're working with their doctor. Whether or not they're on TRT is certainly up to their medical professional. But from your standpoint, from the fitness and nutrition expert standpoint, what are we doing, as a means to get their body to start to produce the amount of testosterone that they need? And what can we really control for from that standpoint?
So the variables that fitness professionals can control is diet and training. And, biochemistry, like you can always suggest blood work. I don't go there initially. I just ask in my first interview, have you ever had blood work? 90% of the time, the answer is no, or blood work meaning like testosterone levels, not just CBC.
Okay.
And usually the answer is no. And that gives me a general idea. And a lot of my guys love their doctor. They have the best doctor in New York City. So,
Totally.
I have to kind of tiptoe and, because who am I, some blonde fitness professional? What do I know about, men's hormones? But once we start digging deeper into a lot of their lifestyle factors, then it's like, all right, I have an understanding of what direction we can go if we need to get blood work. Because usually as clients progress and they see results, they plateau. But sometimes they'll plateau and there's nothing that we can do to get them out of that. And we've controlled diet, we've controlled lifestyle as best as we can, and training. So sometimes it is the biochemical factor that takes place. But aside from that, food logs, awesome. It used to be a pain in the ass for a lot of people, but if they're very militant in the way that they do things and structured, they're going to love it. They're going to love logging and just seeing the numbers, especially if they're finance people. But it just gives you the reality of like, all right, what am I taking in? Because without weighing food so much or understanding what you're taking in, seeing it in front of you, that helps a lot. And then being able to gauge how much exercise someone needs is based on how can they recover.
Yep.
Whether or not you get blood work, still, you're going to understand how your client recovers based on subjective measurements before each session. All right, how's work this week? What is the stress level? How much did you sleep? So things like that. Did they have a new baby? Side note, men who have a newborn baby, usually their test levels drop for about a year. So understanding what's going on in life,
I have three young kids, and I think that my testosterone levels have yet to recover. So this is a motivating talk for me to go get tested, because it's actually been quite a while. You mentioned food logs, and I find immense value in food logs, and I think it's worth just talking about for a second. But what do you see as being, if that's something that's a first step that you implement with your trainees, what do they typically notice? And, what steps kind of does it cause them to take when they first start logging their foods?
Honestly, a lot of the time they don't really notice anything other than this is what I'm eating. And I have to point out your protein's really low. Your vegetable intake's really low. And often the total caloric intake for what their output is quite low. I tell them I eat the same amount that they are. So it's usually upping the vegetables, upping the protein. And I try to keep it so basic. And Jim Brown actually drills this into me too. Protein, vegetables. That's it. And I tell them, go out to dinner, double vegetables, substitute the starch.
Yeah.
If you're going to drink alcohol, have alcohol with protein and vegetables, but don't have alcohol with starch. You can't have both. You can pick one or the other. If you want dessert, no drinks. If you want to drink, no dessert, because alcohol gets preferentially metabolized. Everything else kind of gets put on the back burner, more likely to be stored as fat. The thermic effect of protein and vegetables combined with alcohol, which actually has a pretty high thermic effect, is on the safer side if you're going to, because a lot of my guys have to. A lot of people want to live their life. So it's not cut it cold turkey, but understand the impact if you drink X amount of alcohol, that this is what's going to happen.
So you find that with your clients, it's still cool for them to drink and they can still get good results even when they are consuming alcohol.
Yes. How much of that? once or twice a week. I tell them, well, I have these business dinners and, okay, club soda and lime after your first drink. It looks like an alcoholic drink. And if you're, so worried about not drinking alcohol because of a social thing, we have to work on your personality.
That's a good point. Yeah. I mean,
So,
if you need it to just be social, or, using it completely as a stress response or something like that, then it's a completely another issue. But, that's important though. I mean, and it's valid, because so many of us do entertain, or, we like to be social, and we also like to consume alcohol. And is it something, that we can, by manipulating those other variables like your nutrition and just sticking with meat and veggies and minimizing the starchy carbs, then that's a pretty good solution. Whereas a lot of times people would say, well, either I can't drink at all, or if I do drink, screw it, and I'm going to eat everything in sight. And so to have some of those rules in place, I think is very valuable.
It's huge. It is so basic, and it's easy for people to follow, for most people. I mean, I can tell you a story. A lot of people like to talk about their client successes. I can talk about my client failures. I have one guy who's an online nutrition client, and he, is flying every week, stressed out, owns a business, travels so much, was eating 5 Quest bars a day. And
oh my goodness,
that makes my stomach hurt just thinking about that. But
disgusting.
Oh, so, he needs convenience foods. So I said, all right, let's switch to some Epic bars and eat some of the jerky. Well, when he was home, he was still living on Quest bars and jerky. And I'm like, dude, real food when you're home. Well, I can't make, okay. Got him hooked up with a meal prep service, but he wasn't ordering enough. So he started snacking on Quest bars. And I said, we need to do 1 Quest bar a day. That is our limit. Couldn't change it. And I'm looking at his food log every day, 3 Quest bars, this, that. And I'm like, what is the problem? And I think some people think that when they click pay with the credit card, that you buy a trainer or nutrition coach, that equals results right away. Well, there is some work you have to do. It's habit change. It's a big habit change. And he didn't understand if he had, 2,400 calories in Quest bars versus 2,400 calories in real food, what the difference is. And I said, you have a digestive system for a reason. You're not getting any micronutrients. This is going to keep your hormone levels more optimal, and your body's just going to function. So from a health standpoint going forward, this is so you can actually assimilate and absorb your food going throughout your life, because he's a triathlete too. So they need to take in a lot. And some people are very hard-headed and they just want to do things their way.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah,
I don't know.
That's crazy. That's a lot of Quest bars. So what are some other things that you utilize with your clients to help them kind of optimize their testosterone levels and help them with, losing weight? I mean, so, a lot of your clients are golfers, and I'm assuming, one of their main goals is certainly improve their golf game, but I'm also assuming that they have aesthetic goals as well.
Oh, yeah.
And so, and especially probably being fat loss. So what are kind of some of the things that are your go-to for helping them improve body fat composition?
So getting them sleeping, getting anybody sleeping really, the most depleted nutrients from lack of sleep and stress is zinc, magnesium, vitamin B6, and pretty much vitamin D. So I ask them if they're supplementing, and if they're not, then I can confidently have them supplement with that without having to test them if they're actually deficient in that, which of course should be the way to go. But I don't know anybody who's been sufficient in magnesium, and it really does help with sleep and so many metabolic things in our body. So that's one of the things that, I'll do, especially, here in the Northeast, where right now it's gloomy out and gross.
Yep.
So we have lack of sun. And then with their workouts, it's a lot of the subjective stuff. Every day I ask, how is stress? Did we travel this week? What's work like? What's home like? Really dig in, because if we're scheduled to, do 3RM rack pulls or whatever, maybe we're a little bit too fatigued for that. So it's understanding, all right, what can we program for the week to get them on the path towards being able to drop body fat. And I need them to get at least one heavy workout in a week. And then that's usually total body, but it'll start with a main lift, like a deadlift or a squat or a variation of something like that. And then later in the week, maybe more accessory work in a circuit format. And depending on what their schedule is, try to get them to go walk. Mm-hmm. Because walking has really no impact on their appetite. It lowers cortisol. It helps insulin sensitivity. And, it gives them the outlet that they crave, where they can do phone calls and work and all that stuff, but without causing further damage or more stress.
Yeah, that's really helpful, and something we've talked a lot about as of late, that there's a difference between exercise, like structured exercise, and movement. And we need to be moving on a daily basis. And, there's just low intensity walking consistently, kind of that 10,000 steps a day, but it's modulating the amount and intensity of actual structured exercise that we can utilize to help us manage our sympathetic nervous system and our kind of stress response. And so I like how you talked about how you're kind of subjectively asking them these questions before every training session. And so I'm assuming you have kind of a plan in place of what you'd like to get done that week. And then you can kind of just mix and shuffle things around based on how they're showing up and their kind of readiness level.
Yeah. Because we're not all, fortunate to have an omega wave to be able to,
right.
Determine that or use HRV. So, what are the ways that we can, as fitness professionals, gauge that? Because the last thing you want to do is cause any harm to somebody. And you still want to, have them leaving feeling good. But if you're training somebody 2 to 3 days a week, you need them to come back, as fresh as possible, and then understand what is the cost of that training session. Because if you do go balls to the wall, then the cost is going to be greater than it would if you put on the brakes a little bit, and they may not feel so hot later in the mm-hmm. week, or they may injure themselves.
So are there any objective tools that you give your clients to utilize when they're not with you, to be able to track kind of their readiness levels, whether it's heart rate variability? I mean, do you have your guys do that? Do they record kind of their sleep? Do you have them continue to monitor food through apps? What do those types of tools look like?
Food logging, yes. Not everybody does it, because some of my guys don't care. Like I have a couple guys who are late 60s, early 70s. Yeah. They just want to lift heavy. They don't care what they look like, yeah. Which is respectable. But on the road, I do have them track their sleep. I give them workouts to do on the road that are usually quick, efficient circuits, because hotel gyms usually have dumbbells, which is fine. Some of them I have tracked their temperature in the morning to see how their metabolism is going. They usually all track their sleep. I think I mentioned that. And then they don't track heart rate variability, but some of them have it on some of the contraptions that they have on their watch and stuff. So,
what app do you use to have them track their sleep?
I don't even know the name, but they all have different ones. So,
okay.
But I think Fitbit has its own or something.
Okay, cool. Yeah, I mean, there's a bunch of different sleep apps, so that's cool.
I just tell them download whichever one works with whatever device that they have.
Well, a lot of times these guys are pretty numbers oriented, so they really like getting that kind of data, and it almost becomes competitive for themselves, to try and like optimize their sleep and have the longest running, or deepest REM sleep most consistently and stuff like that. So I think those types of tools are phenomenal for that type of population.
Definitely the sleep tracking. I made one of my guys who would come in, he literally works with West Coast timing. So he would come in not sleeping at 6 a.m. for a session, or he'd come off a red eye, or he would get 2 to 3 hours like max. And I'm like, dude, this is not going to fly. And he wanted me to be proud of him for showing up still. Right. And I'm like, you're not getting a medal for this. I really would love for you to go home and go to bed. But you're paying me, so we have to do something. I get it. So I had him starting tracking, and then actually he became competitive with his son about steps to get during the day. And that made a big change for him, because he realized how important sleep was. Because I'm like, you're just you're having 6 venti coffees a day. Like that's
Oh,
what you're
man.
running on, and he refused to eat a carb. So some people are a project, which is fine, but it's, baby steps. But that was huge for him to see in front of him the numbers, like, wow, I really am getting 3.5 hours of sleep. Like that's not good.
Yeah.
So, and rather than lecture them, I let them see the data for themselves. And blood work actually works really well for that as well, because if they do have any cardiac issues or they're lower in testosterone or something that they didn't think, and then they see it on paper, they're like, oh my God, I might die. That's quite impactful,
Yeah.
So.
Are there any resources that you refer your clients to help educate them on the impacts of environment, of stress, of low testosterone, anything like that?
So I've given a few of them the copy of Jim and Jay's book. It used to be the Testosterone Replacement Manual, or the Definitive Testosterone. Yep. The new one, I was hoping it would come out before Christmas so I could give it to everybody, but they're slow. So it's the Testosterone Optimization Therapy Bible. So that they created a new acronym because it's more optimizing, not really replacing so much. So their book is a great resource because it explains everything in English, and it can be something somebody can give to their doctors that's not offensive because they cite all their studies and everything. Their website, TRT Revolution, is where I direct everybody when they have questions. If you really want to read more about side effects of TRT, or does it really cause prostate cancer, which it doesn't, and just more in-depth information, then that's a great website. My friend Jade Tita, who is a naturopath,
I just interviewed him yesterday.
Oh, you did?
Yeah.
He's like one of my good friends. I learned a ton from him initially. I actually started following him maybe like 6 years ago.
Yep.
And so he's a wealth of info. So his website,
Yes.
Metabolic Effect, he's very long-winded. So his articles are like, pages. He likes to talk. He's a great dude. He's a
great dude, but he can go.
Listen to his podcast with you when it comes out. So yeah, that's pretty much, because those are kind of like English speaking sites, versus like, well, here's a PubMed study that doesn't make any sense to somebody. So
no, that's good. And those are great. Those are all great resources. I've had Jay on the show before. And so we all know dude's super smart when it comes to TRT. And so by the time this comes out, I'll provide a link to their new book about testosterone optimization. And, for those people that are listening, I mean, we're talking about a lot of the same things over and over and over again, but hopefully it's starting to sink in. One of the reasons we started this podcast is so that it's not me just regurgitating this stuff, but these are health professionals that are getting great results from all over the world, and making massive impact in our industry. And so hopefully it's sinking in that it's just not as easy as doing the latest fad diet. It's not as easy as just going keto to be the solution to all of your problems. It's not as easy as just, starting to crush yourself with CrossFit workouts or, metabolic training. Is there's significant amount of nutrition and lifestyle factors, much more significant than the type of exercise that you're doing. And Ali, I think you'd probably agree with that, which for me, and for me, that was something that was really frustrating when I was training, because I trained clients for about 12 or 13 years, and I found myself becoming increasingly frustrated with the fact that people are paying really good money to come in and work out, and I'm trying to give them the best workouts possible and help them reach their body composition goals and their health-related goals, but not having control over what they're doing the other 23 hours of the day. And as I started to learn more and more, really understand that those 23 hours matter so much more than just the time that we're spending in the gym, as valuable as it is, and as much as that contributes to everything else. And so this is, part of our mission to help people make smart nutrition simple, help people make healthier decisions that are going to support them for their lifetime, and move people away from just the crazy nonsensical shit that they're seeing on, websites and through social media and through BS Instagram every single day. So I have immense amount of appreciation for people like you, Ali, that are doing great things, spreading great information, continuing to educate yourself, and not only working with just general population, but you're also educating other trainers. And so, I mean, that's the ultimate of just think how many people that those trainers are going to then turn around and affect in a positive way. So I just want to thank you so much for everything that you're doing and for taking the time to come on the show. Ali, where can people find out more about you?
I'm on Facebook as myself. My business page is Metabolic Golf. My Instagram is Metabolic Golf. And my Twitter is Metabolic Golf. And my website is metabolicgolf.com. So off my website, you can find a link to the Greenwich DX Sports Lab, which is our blood work company, if somebody's interested in that. But I'm all over social media, and I tell people, please don't hesitate to reach out, ask questions. I really do love talking about this stuff.
Yes.
Because, people feel like they're bothering you, but I'd rather them ask me than try to Google something or go on YouTube and read it in a magazine. So.
Yeah. And I follow you on Facebook, and that's how I ended up wanting to reach out before even realizing that, we have a ton of mutual professionals in common, friends in common, but make sure you guys follow Ali on Facebook. I don't really do too much with the other platforms, so I don't know how active you are or not, but you're definitely a wealth of knowledge on Facebook and funny and really have some engaging posts. And so make sure you guys take a second to go follow her there. And Ali, thanks so much. We're going to have to do it again soon.
Yeah, thank you very much for the opportunity. It's really fun. I'm honored to be on here because the word needs to get out. So it's a collective effort with all of us to, continue to fight the good fight.
Well, keep up the good work, and we'll talk soon.
Thanks a lot.
Bye. Well, there you have it. I hope you guys enjoyed this episode with Ali Gilbert. Make sure to check out the show notes over at bslnutrition.com/episode 31. And make sure to subscribe and leave a positive review in iTunes so that we can help more people make smart nutrition simple. This episode was brought to you by BSL Nutrition and the Complete Essentials all-in-one training drink. If you've been looking for a comprehensive workout supplement that can help support great energy, both in and around your workouts, as well as reduce muscle soreness without any of the caffeine or artificial sweeteners, then head over to bslnutritionshop.com and type in podcast at checkout for 15% off your first purchase of either the grape and or the lemon lime complete essentials.